Hello and welcome to our Fandom Fest 2022. I'm Kate Mills, Adult Services Librarian, and this is Fandom Foodstuffs. Today we have Kristen Slick of the Classroom Kitchen, who will share with us recipes from some of our favorite fandoms, including Star Wars, Harry Potter, and Doctor Who. So please welcome Kristen Slick.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here tonight. These recipes, I'm going to be honest, took some research and development to make sure that we could fit them within our hour time frame and to make sure we pull on some of those really awesome references in all of these classic movies and comics and TV shows and books and all of the things, right? My name is Kristen Slick of Classroom Kitchen. I am a cooking instructor specifically for home chefs and their families. You won't see anything super duper fancy, not a ton of tech, really in-depth techniques, but you will get a lot of cooking tips, a lot of fun, and maybe a little bit of food history and movie history as well. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are going to be covering 3 different recipes tonight. This is your class, so feel free to chime in the chat anytime you'd like. I love interactive classes. It makes me not feel so alone, and it makes me feel just like we're actually together, right? So we are going to be doing 3 recipes. We're going to be doing Crack in the Wall Cinnamon Chocolate Pull-Apart Bread from Doctor Who. We're going to be doing, and I apologize for this, I know enough about Star Wars, but I'm not super into Star Wars. Let me tell you, Star Wars at Disney was amazing. But we are going to be doing a Ronto wrap. I realized in the recipe I misspelled it and put Ronto wrap, so I apologize. When I was researching it a little bit more, I realized I misspelled it, but it is a Ronto wrap. And then we're going to be doing some Harry Potter Howlers as well. And Harry Potter, that is my fandom. I actually wore my Harry Potter shirt. I grew up with Harry Potter. I was like the same age as the characters when the books came out, 11, 12, 13, 14. And so I feel like Harry and Hermione and Ron were kind of like all of my friends. They could be like my friends. So Harry Potter is definitely my cup of tea and kind of where I fall in this spectrum. So we're going to be doing 2 kind of sweet things and then 1 savory dish. I didn't want to go all sweet or all savory, kind of wanted to give you some options. And we can talk a little bit too about some variations behind them and also where these references come from. We are going to start with our Doctor Who recipe first because it does take the longest to bake. So I do want to make sure that we get that in the oven so that it is ready for us by the time class is over tonight. All right. So Doctor Who, Crack in the Wall, Cinnamon Chocolate Pull-Apart Bread. Now, I went really simple on this one. We could have absolutely made our own cinnamon dough and all of that, but the class just isn't long enough because we need proofing and leavening time. And we just didn't have the time for that. So I did do a little bit of a cheat by actually just buying a can of Pillsbury Grand's cinnamon rolls. So we are going to try to cheat that way, but it's a very, very similar kind of taste, texture, and everything in between to what we would do if we were to make our own bread. Okay. We're also going to use the classic Nutella, which is a chocolate hazelnut spread for this as well. The Crack in the Wall reference, if you're not familiar with Doctor Who, like myself, Doctor Who, I would say was probably the most challenging to find a decent recipe and decent reference recipe with. I went with Crack in the Wall because really the Crack in the Wall is the premise of the whole show, right? It's a rip through time and space, these cracks in Doctor Who and different and tell me if I'm getting this wrong, because like I said, I definitely have not watched these, but I did read about, it was kind of the Cliff Notes version. So we're going to do Crack in the Wall. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to create this really cool bread that has cracks in it. And it's a pull apart bread. So every time you pull back a layer, it's like you're like peeling back another level of time and space. Okay. So that was kind of where I was going with this. So let's actually pull that out of the fridge. I did want to keep my cinnamon rolls cold because they are easier to cut that way. So if you are baking along with us, if this is a recipe you're doing with me tonight, you will need your cinnamon rolls and your Nutella. The oven also needs to be preheated to 350 degrees. And you should have a 9x5 loaf pan, either with parchment paper, which is my favorite baking tool in the whole world because it leaves my pans clean. It's kind of like tinfoil on a sheet pan, parchment paper, and baking pans. Baking parchment paper is oven safe up to 500 degrees. We have it at 350. And so these definitely you can do most baked stuff in the oven with this, just not under the broiler. It will burn up. It still is paper. Okay. But it's kind of like heat resistant paper up to 500 degrees. You do not want to use wax paper. Wax paper does not go in the oven. It is microwave safe, fridge and freezer safe, but it does not go in the oven. So make sure that this is not wax paper, but it is parchment paper. Okay. So see, lots of little cooking tips and tricks. Nothing too overly complicated. You're just going to get some really nice basic cooking lessons along with our awesome recipes for tonight. So I'm going to position my camera over the top of my workstation so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And then we will, I'm going to pull that out of the fridge and we're going to create this crack in the wall recipe. If you have anything you want to add about Doctor Who, feel free to chat with each other about it. Like I said, Doctor Who is not something I'm super familiar with, so I'd love to learn more. And we're going to go ahead and make this chocolate pull-apart bread. So let me get my cinnamon rolls here. Now, I did start prepping them just to make sure that they actually cut the way I wanted them to cut. Now, the other problem was I didn't end up getting the Pillsbury version of cinnamon rolls, which tend to be a lot fatter, okay? So my recipe calls for you to cut it into thirds. The problem is my cinnamon rolls are not thick enough to cut into thirds, okay? So we're just gonna cut them in half. Perfectly fine, right? We're just not gonna have as many dimensions, as many crack in the walls in our chocolate pull apart bread, okay? So let me go ahead and drop you over my workspace here. And again, feel free to chat about Doctor Who if there's anything you want to share about it. So we kind of started building this out already. I cut one in half and we just filled the center with some chocolate hazelnut spread. And we're going to keep building this and we're going to keep stacking them until we have basically like a whole loaf of cinnamon roll and chocolate Nutella. Let me grab my sharper knife. I'm just using a straight blade sharper knife. These cinnamon rolls are nice and cold. They have not been sitting at room temperature. They are a lot easier to cut this way. Okay, so all I'm going to do is holding it very gently between two fingers because they are nice and sticky. I'm just going to take my blade and just very gently kind of saw through. And it should pretty easily cut the dough as long as it's super cold. Okay, this might be even something you want to set in the freezer for a tad bit before you start messing with it. So then that way you can reassure yourself that it is going to be nice and cold and easy for you to handle and cut. So I just smeared some Nutella on that last cinnamon roll that I cut in half. And we're just going to kind of keep stacking these until we get through our whole roll of cinnamon rolls. We are also going to be using the icing for this that comes with the cinnamon rolls. We are going to use that at the end, and it's still going to be a nice little glaze over the top. But like I said, the really fun part is the fact that it's kind of like if you guys have ever seen like a monkey bread, if you've ever made monkey bread before, a cinnamon monkey bread, where you actually take biscuit dough and roll it and shake it in cinnamon sugar and they end up like little pull apart balls. This is kind of a similar version, except it's stacked bread next to each other. So you're literally peeling the bread apart as you're enjoying it, which is kind of a cool way to share it with friends and family. So Doctor Who aside, this is still a really fun recipe to be able to share, especially like upcoming holidays. Like we have Easter coming up and it's a really just fun, bright bread to share with people for the holidays and just, you know, really dig in and get messy and delicious and very, very simple ingredients and very simple method. If you have kids at home, this is also a great recipe for them to get involved with. You can maybe do the cutting. They can do the Nutella slathering. Just again, a really fun way to get the whole family involved. And not hard, definitely a little tedious, right? But definitely not hard either. Now, could you like skip the whole cutting in half thing too? Absolutely. You can literally just take the 8 cinnamon rolls that they come in the can and just slather the Nutella between them. The reason I like cutting them in half or even in thirds, if they are more of like the Grand's biscuit version, is because you literally peel it off like a window pane. Like it's really cool how they end up baking and pulling apart. Whereas if you just stack these together, keep in mind, they rise in the oven, right? They're going to spread out. So when you peel it apart, it's going to still be like a big hunk of cinnamon roll. And you don't necessarily want that for this recipe. Now, if you are very precise and you do still get these little skinny cinnamon rolls, you can absolutely try to cut them into thirds, but I just was not going to attempt it. I think these are a great, little size to deal with. And that's what we're going with tonight. I still have 2 more, and then we're almost done. Oh, my tower's starting to lean. I'll kind of get that propped back up. Now, I don't have Nutella on the ends of my loaf here. So the side that is on the cutting mat does not have any Nutella on it. It's just plain. We don't want the chocolate oozing out the outsides. We just want it all on the inside and kind of the glue that keeps these cinnamon rolls together. We're almost there. And then you can see these are nice and sticky and ooey and gooey, and how parchment paper is just going to be the perfect thing to put in our pan. Ooh, my tower is getting leany. Last one. Now, in the comments, tell me, who are my Doctor Who fans? Like, who's watched Doctor Who or has started Doctor Who, or who started it and then didn't finish it, or who's watched it a lot of times? Anybody in the comments, feel free to throw that out there. I'd love to see who our Doctor Who fans are in the chat tonight. All right, here we go. So we have all of our cinnamon rolls cut and slathered with Nutella. Me forever starting with Tom Baker. Wow, Kate, that is awesome. So I hope I'm doing this justice tonight. Like I said, I went really high level with it because it's a very complex show for me when I was trying to research it. So, all right, so we're going to put this in our pan. And it looks a little bit funny because the pan is going to be bigger than the cinnamon rolls, right? But as they bake, they're going to spread, they're going to rise, and it will fill out the pan beautifully. So this is going to go in the oven, like I said, for about 20 to 25 minutes or so, especially with kind of a smaller loaf and not like the extra large grams ones. I think this will bake pretty nicely for us. So I'll put this in the oven. We'll kind of clean up this chocolate mess, and we're going to move on next to our Ronto wraps, okay? I'm going to also clean the chocolate off my fingers because I do not want chocolate in my Ronto wraps. Awesome. Put this in the oven, 350. There we go. I'm bringing chocolate all over my kitchen with me. Everything I touch right now is chocolate and cinnamon. All righty. Perfect. We'll move this out of the way. Nutella can be put away, and I have my icing set to the side. If you've never had cinnamon rolls, make sure you leave this out ahead of time so you can spread it. Even put it by your oven or stovetop as things are baking because it'll be nice and soft, okay? So we'll leave that to the side as well because I've had that sitting out for a little bit of time. So the next recipe we're going to be doing is a Ronto wrap. Now, Ronto wrap is from Star Wars. My family and I have a 9-year-old son and an 11-and-a-half-year-old daughter. My daughter just not into Star Wars really at all. But my son, he did have a phase of Star Wars. And so he's seen a lot of the movies, especially with my husband. We went to Disney last year and we went to Star Wars World, which for me, not even being a huge Star Wars fan, was incredible. I have more recently seen like the Adam Driver version of Star Wars. I've seen some of the older ones as well. Definitely not all of them. But the thing that repeatedly came up in a lot of these movies and comic books and these spin-off cartoons and stories are these Ronto wraps. Now, if you're not familiar with Star Wars, a Ronto is an animal, and it's a very tame animal that's used by one of the civilizations. I forget the name off the top of my head, but it is kind of a gentle giant, but they is, of course, slayed for its meat. And so Ronto wraps are produced at Ronto Roasters. And what they do is it's kind of like a racing theme. They use pod racing engines to slowly roast large animals, and Rontos being one of them. A Ronto wrap is basically a pita bread with Ronto meat in it. So we're going to kind of make a different version that actually Disney produces for its Ronto wraps at Disney in kind of Star Wars land. If you are a Star Wars fan and you haven't experienced Star Wars stuff there, it's incredible. My son got a lightsaber. I mean, really felt so special about it all. The rides are just incredible. The scenery's amazing. I mean, no, it's like no other Disney ride I've ever been on. It was really, really cool. So the cool thing about this is it does have kind of our meat. We're going to use a spicy sausage, which I chose an andouille sausage. We're going to use thin cut pork chops. We're going to use pita bread. We're going to make a homemade coleslaw, and we're going to make clutch sauce. And that is a reference from the movie as well. Clutch sauce basically in this recipe is going to be a peppercorn dressing though. Okay. So we're going to kind of pull all of this together. You can make as well a breakfast version with eggs, sausage, and cheese, and you can include some veggies and clutch sauce on that as well. You can also make a plant-based version with a plant-based sausage, veggies, kind of like more hardy vegetables, and then of course your clutch sauce as well if you are like a vegetarian. Okay. So this doesn't have to be meat. Now it is based on a meat product, but you can definitely make substitutions and things for this recipe. Okay. So what I did is I have this andouille sausage. Andouille sausage is like a spicy Cajun sausage. I butterflied them and I just pan fried them. They're already pre-cooked. So really I was just adding some color to them and kind of just curling those edges to really kind of get that flavor going. Our bodies, our taste buds love this coloring on food. So even if you were going to be making the plant-based version with a plant-based sausage and vegetables, I highly recommend that you pan fry them to get this flavoring and color on them. Okay. Now the pork chops I haven't cooked yet because I did want to show you what they look like before I cook them. These are thin cut pork chops that I got at the grocery store. They came in a 3-pack and they're already pretty thin. I mean, they're probably 1/2 inch thick. They're not very thick, but we want them thinner than that. So what I like to do is I put a piece of plastic wrap over the top of the pork chops, and with an awesome meat tenderizer, take out my aggression on the pork chops. And only a couple hits really do the job to really make them this thin. You want them about 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick. So pretty thin, which also means they're going to cook really fast. Also, you just tenderized them. So they're going to probably be really tender in your pita as well. Okay. So we have our really thin pork chops. We already have our seared sausage. Also the sausage, what I did, if you've never seen the sausage before, it comes like in a link. Okay. So it's kind of like, it looks kind of like an oval. I cut these to match the size of my pork chops so that all of the meat is kind of the same size within the wrap. And I don't have anything kind of exploding out of it. You can absolutely, I know at Disney, they actually make the sausages like twice as long as the pita and they stuff the pork chop inside. So you can make them however you want. I like everything kind of similar in proportion. Okay. So I'm going to throw these in a pan. They really should just take a couple minutes per side to cook. Pork chops cook pretty quickly. And you do really, honestly, you can serve pork chops like a medium well. They don't have to be well done in order to serve pork chops. Okay. If you're unsure about meat temperatures, definitely invest in a meat thermometer. It's a really great tool to have in the kitchen, especially if you're just kind of unsure about meats and you end up over or under cooking them often. Okay. So I'm going to bring you back to my stovetop so you can kind of fry these real quick with me. And what I did as well is I left the flavoring and kind of the oils from the andouille sausage in the pan. So then that way it kind of picks up that same flavoring on the pork chops. And then I also just added a little bit of salt and pepper. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to fit all of these in the pan, but we're gonna give it a shot. I'm actually just gonna do 2 of them. I'll pan fry the other one later on. Perfect. Now my pan needs to get a little hot, which is why you're not really hearing the sizzle right now. But it will get there. And like I said, only about 2 minutes on each side. It's going to be really, really quick. Okay. So really simple. First sausages. I like to get that flavor on the bottom, then the pork chops. Okay. While these are cooking, we're going to go ahead and make our clutch sauce. And I'm going to show you how to make the coleslaw, and then we're going to warm up our pita bread, and that should be ready to build the sandwich out then. Okay. Come back with me. All right. So our clutch sauce, this is the word for it that they use in the Star Wars references. And if you look this up, like I said, there are tons of references to this Ronto wrap, if not directly, also indirectly, in the sense that they talk about eating Ronto. They talk about the Ronto roasters. They talk about these kind of like outposts during the movie where you can grab wraps like this all the time. They also talk about just being hungry for meat. So there's a lot of references in Star Wars for this Ronto wrap. So in our peppercorn dressing, which is our clutch sauce, I have some mayonnaise. I have some sour cream. I have some crushed peppercorn, garlic powder, and Worcestershire sauce. We're also going to add some milk, or else it's just going to be way too thick. We want this more of a drizzled sauce rather than in a dressing, rather than like a dip. Okay. I also have a little bit of salt in here to just kind of salt to taste. We don't need too much, especially with the Worcestershire sauce in here. I'm going to get a whisk so this isn't super thick. I want to make sure that it isn't like clumpy. We want to break down all of that mayo and the sour cream. So this kind of looks more like a thin dressing, which is what we want. We want it to kind of match the coleslaw that we're doing as well. Also, if you put this in the fridge, it will thicken slightly. The flavors will develop more. So feel free to throw this in the fridge if you are not using it right away. It will actually taste better, in my opinion. Any dressing or sauce or dip that you make ahead of time will taste better if you let it kind of just ruminate together. So we have like a really nice, easy peppercorn sauce that we're going to use, our clutch sauce, on our Ronto wrap. Okay, so we have that made. We're also going to do some coleslaw. And this is a vinaigrette coleslaw. So I already tossed this together. Super, super simple. I like to make this a little bit ahead of time because the vinegar in the coleslaw recipe will break down that coleslaw a little bit and make it a little less crunchy. If you want it crunchy, then feel free just to pour the dressing right over the coleslaw right away and serve it. But I kind of like mine a little bit more wilted, not because I don't like the crunch, but again, because I really just feel like it tastes better. Like I feel like those flavors really work together. So this is just a bag of coleslaw mix that you can get at the grocery store. It's like $1.50, very inexpensive. I use coleslaw mix for a lot of things in my cooking, in stir fries, in soups, in salads, in slaw mixtures for tacos, in egg rolls. So many different things. This is just some oil, some sugar, some vinegar, and some salt and pepper. That's it. So this is a vinegar-based sauce. The reason we're keeping this vinegar-based is because we have the clutch sauce on the side, which is more of a dairy-based sauce, okay? Again, if you're doing this plant-based, you would use your plant-based sausages. I would probably do like onions and peppers and mushrooms as well to kind of give that more of like a umami flavor to your wrap. And then I would still top it with the coleslaw and some peppercorn dressing as well. Okay, so beautiful coleslaw here, ready to go. Super duper easy peppercorn. Guys, honestly, the only thing I really needed to buy for this recipe is the meat. So I didn't necessarily have spicy sausage on hand. I didn't necessarily have pork. I buy my meat weekly though. And I actually had pita bread in the freezer. So I didn't really need to buy anything for this recipe. It was very, very simple to pull together. Honestly, it was more about the research and where all of this comes from and how I can present it to you guys to just in a fun way, indulge in a Star Wars themed food. Okay. So any questions, comments, where do you guys stand with Star Wars? Who loves it? What's your favorite movie, your favorite series? I know there's lots of different spin-offs of things. Who's your favorite character? Have you heard of a Ronto wrap before? Give me some details in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and your experience with Star Wars as well. Just gonna flip our pork chops. We have a really, really nice color on them, especially adding to a little bit of that spicy sausage we already had in the pan. So like I said, for Star Wars, for me, I came in a little late to the game and just didn't really grow up on it too much. Definitely was not really into, I was definitely more like a Disney girl before Star Wars was Disney, right? More of just the kind of Disney movies that were out, kind of rom-com kind of things. And then of course, when I had a son, he was all about Star Wars. And so we had Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and all of their different animals all over my house. And it was just a lot of fun, a lot of lightsaber battles. And it's just really cool memories with him doing that stuff. But again, came in kind of more during the Adam Driver stuff, but Adam Driver's like more my age. And so like I could relate a little bit more, and just, it was a little bit more updated. So just a fun connection in that way. Now, pita bread, you do not want to eat your pita bread right out of the bag. It does not taste good. Okay. Not to say it's bad. It just kind of not great. It's kind of stale tasting. It's kind of boring. It is so much better when you warm up pita bread. So you can do pita bread on a stove, in a pan. You can do it in a microwave. You can do it on a grill. A lot of different places that you can do it. I'm just going to do it in the microwave. I'm going to actually, don't have it, I don't think, with me. I actually have a really cool, like, tortilla warmer that I use to warm this up. So it kind of steams it too. Also, that makes it more pliable. Like, it's not very bendy right now, but as soon as you warm it up, we'll be able to bend it a lot easier. So I like it best like on a gas grill, like a gas stove top, and kind of warm it that way, like a tortilla, because it kind of gets a little charred pieces on it. But I have an electric stove top in my classroom kitchen, so we won't be able to do it on there. So we're just going to throw this in the microwave to build out our wrap with all the different pieces here. And I'll show you what that looks like. Our bread is doing really well too. I think we still have probably about another 5 to 7 minutes on that, which will be perfect timing as we finish up with our Harry Potter Howlers. Harry Potter, my favorite. Did anybody catch the 20th anniversary HBO special? That was the Harry Potter one. It was really good. It just made me smile. I like sat there, my husband walked in and he's like, "Why are you smiling?" I'm like, "I don't know. It just makes me feel so happy watching these people back together again." So definitely, if you haven't seen it, you have HBO, definitely try to catch their anniversary special. It was really good. All right, just a few seconds, like no more than 30 seconds for this Ronto wrap and the pita bread in the microwave. I'm just grabbing a plate here so that we can build this out together. And then we'll work on our Harry Potter Howlers. All right. And you'll see that it gets more flexible and pliable. It's just kind of like corn tortillas. Corn tortillas are not good right out of the package either. You definitely want to warm those up, and they get more pliable when you do warm them up. So look at this. Now it like looks like bread, right? It's nice and pliable and flexible. And this was just microwave. It's way better when you do it on a grill or stovetop, or in a pan, because you get those crispy bits on there. All right, I'm going to turn this off. What we're going to do is I'm going to grab my tongs, and we are going to spread some peppercorn dressing on our pita bread here. So it has thickened a little bit just sitting out here at room temperature. It'll even get thicker if you put it in the fridge. We're just going to kind of spread that on our pita. Kind of the magic sauce. That's why it's called the clutch sauce in the recipe. As little or as much as you want to. I'm a saucy girl, so I like that. We're going to add 1 pork chop and 1 sausage. So I have mine butterflied. So mine are going to kind of end up being stacked together. I'm going to grab a pork chop out of the pan as well. And you can see, again, they don't take very long at all because they are nice and flat. So look at the color on that. And that looks so good. And it matches the sausage. All right, so we have that on here. And then we'll top it with a little bit of coleslaw. And you can absolutely do more peppercorn dressing if you want to. But you can kind of see how everything fits so nicely inside this pita bread that nothing's really hanging out. It's going to be easy to bite into and manage. See if I can fold this over. Ta-da! I think I got it, guys. If anything, my pork chop's just sticking out the top. Look at that. Isn't that so fun? Your own homemade Ronto wrap. So fun, so tasty. It smells good. The cooling effect of the peppercorn dressing will be great with that spicy sausage. And then just the really tenderness of the pork chop and the crisp bite of the coleslaw. I love that like warm meat flavor with that cool, like Frenchy vegetables. That's like one of my favorite combinations in the food world. But look at that. I mean, pretty simple and straightforward, right? If you don't want to make your own homemade peppercorn dressing, you can absolutely buy that from the store. You can absolutely buy pre-made coleslaw. Honestly, the only thing you end up doing is probably grilling up your meats. But this is definitely worth a little bit of extra love and attention to create this awesome Ronto wrap. Okay, perfect. I love it. Put this to the side. All right. So our last recipe today is going
where that lymph line can be drained normally. So specifically in the case of pelvic cancers, inguinal lymph nodes
if you can mute yourself.
On the right there.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So our last recipe is going to be our Harry Potter Howlers. Now, our Harry Potter Howlers, if you're not familiar with Harry Potter, they are magical letters, which that are enchanted with a message in the writer's voice, and is oftentimes in a high volume. Howlers are often are sent messages of anger or great displeasure, and they get hotter as they sit unopened, and they actually will explode after reading them. So there's many references to Howlers in Harry Potter. They are kind of like old-fashioned, even though like Harry Potter's kind of an ancient world. They are kind of considered an old-fashioned way of communicating. Neville talked about getting one from his grandmother and he didn't open it and it didn't go well, and just a super funny way to get basically a nasty note from somebody. So we're going to make some Harry Potter Howlers out of egg roll wrappers and our favorite jam, and then we're actually going to fry them. So they're going to kind of be like a little bit of the cross between like Pop-Tart and a pie and an egg roll, kind of all wrapped into one. All right. So I'm going to put you down over the top of my board here, get the station set up. I am going to be using a strawberry jam just because that's the jam I like to use. And we're also going to be using egg wash. We're going to make a few of them, fry them up, let them cool, and then we're going to top them with some funny howler faces on the front to just really signify that Harry Potter flair to it. Okay. So let me drop you over the top of my workstation here. All right, so egg roll wrappers are super easy to work with. You can use them for lots of different things, including these cute little pastry howlers that we're gonna be doing. So what I did is I actually cut a few of them into quarters because we did kind of need an extra layer to cover our jam so it doesn't spill out everywhere. So I took a few egg roll wrappers and cut them into fourths. The rest of them are whole. We also need some egg wash. You can also use water if you want to. The egg wash, though, will give them kind of a more golden color. And then I have a little bit of my favorite jam here, which is just a strawberry jam. You can use any variation. You can even do savory things. You can do like a cream cheese filling, like an herb cream cheese filling. You can do like a chicken filling, like a cream cheese chicken filling, whatever you want inside of here. I mean, I couldn't pass up the ease of the strawberry jam though, right? So what we're gonna do here is we're going to put our egg roll wrapper in front of us like a diamond, okay? So point side up. And we're gonna just add a tablespoon of jam to the center. We're not gonna overdo it because the jam is gonna kind of get melty in here. So we don't want to overdo the jam. If you have like a cookie scoop that is a tablespoon measure that you wanna use to make sure that it is the right size, then definitely do that, or you can kind of just eyeball it. I'm gonna do a little bit more there. Perfect. All right, from here, we are going to take one of our quarter pieces that I cut, and we're actually going to place that. We're gonna put a little bit of egg wash on it, and we're gonna place it over the jam. So it basically kind of gets sealed and doesn't leak through our little envelope that we're creating, okay? We're gonna place this over the filling, kind of like almost like a little sweet ravioli we're making out of egg rolls. You can make ravioli out of egg rolls too, by the way, if you didn't know that. And we're just gonna press to seal. Again, you can just use water if you want. You don't have to use egg. I like the egg just because it gives it a little bit more of a golden color. All right, from here, we definitely just press to seal. So we basically have like a giant blanket with like a ravioli in the center of it. From here, we're gonna take some more of our egg wash. We're gonna go around the corners. This is why I also like using a cutting board so I don't have to spread egg all over my countertop. And we are going to pull the points into the center to form an envelope. So we have this one here from the bottom. We're gonna fold, actually, I'm gonna do the middle side ones first, kind of like swaddling a baby. Okay, and then I'm gonna bring up my center one. And then I'm gonna fold down over the top. And we're gonna create this really fun envelope. So that is our jam howler. I'm gonna create another one for you guys. My oil is preheating. We do need it pretty screaming hot at about 350 degrees. Again, if you don't know the temperature of your oil, you can always test it with a little pinch of flour in your oil. If it bubbles up, then you know it's ready. Or if you have like a candy thermometer, that's the best way to test the temperature of your oil. So we're gonna go again, a tablespoon of our jam in the center here. Add kind of our cover piece to cover this, seal the edges to create that kind of sweet ravioli right in the center. Make sure that's nice and sealed so it doesn't leak out anywhere. Take some more egg wash, go around the corners some more. We're gonna fold in our sides first, like a baby swaddle. So we're gonna tuck it over the top of our jam, tuck it over the top of our jam, pull up our center. The center will then cover the side points and part of the jam, and then the top will kind of cover all three other corners. And we're just gonna press down to seal so that egg wash does its job by sealing in the jam, okay? So from here, we're going to fry these in just a skillet with I just have some vegetable oil until they're golden brown. We're gonna just drain them. Oops, you guys still there? We're good? My power just flashed at home. That was super weird. We're gonna drain them on a paper towel on a plate. And then we are going to ice them with some fun red and black icing to make lips and eyes, okay? So we are going to move this to our oil pan back here. And we're gonna drop these in. And we're gonna go golden brown, couple minutes on each side. While those are frying up, I'm gonna check on my bread over here. We are almost there. It's still a little bit ooey gooey in the center. I'm gonna actually turn up the heat a little bit on those, just so that we know that they'll finish by the time we're done. There we go. We'll get that fried up a little bit. You can see these are frying. I'm gonna get a plate with a paper towel, just so that we can drain that extra oil off. You know they're ready to flip when the edges start turning a brown. If you're gonna be making many of these, you don't wanna overcrowd your pan. You wanna make sure that they still have room to kind of move around and float. So don't put too many in at one time. Honestly, with the size of these, I'd probably only do 3 at a time with the size of my pan that I have going on here. All right, give this one a flip. You can see my strawberry jam inside of there. You can see how it kind of expands. Get both of those sides fried up. So I attempted to do the Harry Potter stuff with my kids book-wise, and they always would fall asleep way too early. So then we tried the movies, and they've done movies 1, 2, and 3 with me so far. The only problem is after 4, 5, 6, like those, they get a little dark. And my son, who is 9, he's a little bit of a tender heart, and he gets a little bit worked up with things like that. So we haven't made it past 3, but we did see Harry Potter in Universal when we went last summer as well, and it was incredible. My very, very favorite ride was Hagrid's motorcycle ride. That one was just so much fun. I felt like a little kid riding it. Literally, you're on a motorcycle, and I was like, vroom, vroom, like just so excited on it. Hagrid is probably my favorite character from Harry Potter. He is just the epitome of tender heart and just amazing. When my husband and I, we were actually dating since high school, and I was super into Harry Potter. They came out with Harry Potter Lego sets way back in the day, and he spent like $100 on Hagrid's hut for me because I was really into Legos. And that was a lot of money for like a 20-year-old to spend for his 17, 18-year-old girlfriend. And I was happy as a clam with that gift. And he bought it on eBay, and, you know, the eBay days. And it was just so sweet and thoughtful of him to know that I just loved Harry Potter that much. So a little bit of my jam kind of escaped, which is why you saw the oil kind of flare up a little bit. So that is why we need to make sure that it's really properly sealed, or else you'll kind of get a flare up in your oil. So you just got to be really careful with that. I'm going to take this one out because it is nice and golden brown. We're going to put it on a plate here. This one is just about done as well. So we'll remove this one, and I'll turn off the oil. So then that way we don't have to worry about frying up too many other ones right now. Oops, there goes some of my jam again. So see, we need to make sure it's sealed nice and tight. We're going to let these cool for just a couple minutes before I put any icing on them, because the icing will melt straight off if we did that. So we are going to make sure that these are cooled slightly before we start icing the faces on. So these are really fun because, like I said, you can do a lot of different flavor combinations. It doesn't have to be strawberry jam. You could even put Nutella in here if you wanted to. But if you did have a fun Harry Potter party or viewing of a Harry Potter movie, or you want to share this with your kids or grandkids, it's a lot of fun to be able to make these little sweet treats. Pretty simple and straightforward, very versatile, and you can make a lot of different flavor combinations with them as well. So as far as the icing, I just bought these cookie icings. Okay, we don't need a lot. These are much, much bigger than actually what we need for tonight's recipe. But they do seal up, and you can leave them in your pantry. They do not need to be refrigerated or anything like that. So they can just sit in your pantry. It's basically like a version of royal icing. So I have a black one. I got this around Halloween time. And then today I just bought a new red one because I didn't have a red color one. I had all the Halloween colors from the last time I used cookie writing icing. The great thing about these little cookie writing things too is when you cut them, you can actually, there's different cut marks. So you can do really, really thin, a little bit thicker, or the thickest. So you can cut them to different intervals as well. I always leave it on the writing one, which is the thinnest cutoff portion, because that's what I end up using it for instead of true cookie icing. I use it mostly for little detail things on things like this. So Howlers have black eyes and they have red lips. Okay, so we're gonna have a little fun decorating these. Let me just grab my scissors. I have to cut the tip off of this red one. There we go. Now, I'm not an art student, so I'm going to do my best with these lips and eyes and see how it turns out. Move some of this stuff out of the way here. I'm going to move this to the side so you guys can see a little more clearly. All right, so we're just going to do some fun little lips kind of at the base of the corner of our envelopes here, because the face is kind of on this top triangle where it seals. I'm just going to squeeze them out so I know it's ready to start. All right, so we're just going to do a fun little bright red lip. Like I said, I am not a decorator, but we're just going to have fun with these. All right, so we have these bright red lips, and then we have some angry eyes because Howlers are not nice. They don't send nice messages. They always send angry messages. So we're going to do some slanted angry eyes on these guys. And the funny thing about Howlers is they get hot as they sit. These cool down as they sit, but they are piping hot when you take them out of that oil. So our Harry Potter Howlers and our Ronto wrap are all ready to go. Last, we're just going to take out our Doctor Who bread, see if we can get some pull apart action on that. And we'll call it a night with our awesome Fandom Foodstuffs. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you learned some great things and had fun exploring different fandom realms with me. Let's take this guy out. There we go. This looks a little bit better. Get this down here for you guys so you can see. All right, so pull this parchment paper back. You can see a little bit more clearly. You can see though that we have this amazing looking bread. When you serve it and it's cool, you'll be able to just pull each layer apart to grab a little slice of heaven between the cinnamon and the chocolate and the doughiness. Oh, so yummy. Let me pour a little bit of icing over the top. Can't forget that. I'm not going to use all of it because it is pretty rich with the Nutella on there. So we're just going to do a little bit just to kind of glue it together, give it a little final touch of the crack in the wall, almost like adding a whole nother crack to the top of this, right? For my Doctor Who people. There we go. Crisscross a little bit. And we have our Doctor Who pull-apart bread. If you guys want to follow me on social media, I have a Facebook page called Classroom Kitchen, Making Mealtime Memories. I always post our finished products from classes there. I also post all the extra upcoming classes that I have. Like tomorrow night, I teach a charcuterie board class, and Friday night, I teach a pie class for Pie Day. So you can always follow along to see what is coming up on my teaching schedule. Again, I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I also have a website, makingmealtimememories.com. If you go there, I send a weekly newsletter. In that weekly newsletter, again, you'll get a recap of what classes are coming up, some cooking and nutrition advice, and you will also get a meal plan. I always share out what my family and I eat during the week, and including links to recipes. So feel free to sign up for that. And it's just a free weekly newsletter that hits your email box on Friday afternoons. So if you go and sign up for that, you will get your first one on Friday. So again, thank you guys again. I will be tagging your library tonight with all of these awesome finished recipes, and definitely looking forward to diving into these for lunchtime tomorrow. So thank you again. Thank you, Barrington Library, for having me. I hope to work with you guys again in the coming year. So thank you so much.